Thank you everybody for coming out. Really appreciate it. Hopefully it's worthy of your time. Um, so about me, if you don't know me, I am a Type 2 fun enthusiast. I'm simply a mediocre mountaineer, aspiring rock climber, do a little canyoneering, a lot of photography. I'm a morning person and I am a planner, which maybe we're in conflict on this trip. So I got a call from my friend Kenzie, who said, she and her friend Sean were talking about going down to Ecuador and doing some peaks. And, I had talked to her about that as well and had expressed interest. So she was like, you want to join this trip? And I said, sure. So the plan was to mainly, the main plan was just to get up Cotopaxi because, cool brand company, like, hey, and maybe I can buy the gear and feel like I've been there. You can tell people. And then Chimborazo is the high point of Ecuador. And I talked to so many people who had tried to do Chimborazo and failed for, weather and stuff. It is a tough mountain, but the weather is really brutal. So I've talked to more people who haven't made it up Chimborazo than have. So that was just kind of like, well, if we get that, that'll be cool. I booked a plane ticket for 13 days. None of us had been to Ecuador. Kenzie spoke Spanish, so that was going to be really handy. I think all of us, I had some Duolingo Spanish, which I brushed up on and for the trip, and that certainly helped in some things. But as I said, I'm a planner, and this was the plan, because we looked into like booking through a company that would sort of like do everything for you, but it was kind of expensive. And we figured, we'd heard people, you can just like go down there and book your guides sort of as you go, and it would be cheaper. So that's like what we did. But as a planner, that really freaked me out. And I was like, you know what, this is going to be good for me. I said, in 2026, I'm going to make myself uncomfortable. That's one of my like goals. And I think I got it all out of the way in the first 2 weeks of 2026. So about this trip, I had a visit with my doctor beforehand to get Diamox for altitude, which helps you acclimate. You start taking it like 48 hours before you start ascending, and then there's some haste and HAPE medication, which I just want to have on hand just in case. Also getting Z-Pack in case I got any travelers diarrhea. I definitely used the Pepto-Bismol and Imodium. It didn't come to the Z-Pack, thankfully. I got the Hep A, Hep B, and typhoid. And Ecuador is also home to the Galapagos. So if you were to plan a trip and you wanted to go to the Galapagos, you probably want to get the yellow fever vaccination as well. In general, like it felt really safe down there. We did get cautioned, like, hey, don't walk alone at night. Water, I definitely filtered. Like I brought a UV pen and I drank lots of bottled water. Kenzie has a much better immune system than I think any of us, and she just was like, I'm like living like the people, and she didn't get sick, and I think I probably got more stomach illness than she did. So I guess depends on how your immune system is. I just put paracetamol equals acetaminophen because I think in other countries, acetaminophen or Tylenol, you'll see it as paracetamol, just so you know, so you don't like double up in case you're taking that ibuprofen or acetaminophen for altitude. In Ecuador, guides are now required above 5,000 meters. They cost around 300 to 500 per mountain, depending. You definitely want to go down with at least an even ratio, ideally, because you will get charged almost double the rate per person if you don't, since the guide ratio is two people to one guide. I had friends tell me that like on Chimborazo, they're like they took him up to high camp and nobody had summited in weeks, and they didn't really tell him that. And summit day, they went kind of wherever they could and then just turned around. So we made it a point to like talk to a lot of guides and stuff about, hey, like have people been summiting? Because there's a lot of mountains down there that we could be doing if you can't get up Chimborazo. So that we definitely talk to people about that. Down there, I talked to the guides, and they or the guide companies, and it's very expensive for them to buy boots. I think tariffs or taxes or whatever. So they actually offered to buy my boots. I actually would give that as a tip of like, if you're contacting a guide company, is like, see if you can trade boots for guiding or something. But that means I would bring my own boots and crampons, because like the gear that's available is like what they have, and it might not be the best gear for the task. Unsurprisingly, like mountain forecast, it's just sort of like doesn't really, it gives you information, but it's not right. And I asked them, I was like, oh, what do you guys use? And they're like, just like go. Like there's no online source of weather that's going to tell you. WhatsApp, everything is WhatsApp down there. So, you know, whether it's like talking to guides, hostels, hotels, pretty much anybody you're going to interact with down there is going to be using WhatsApp. So definitely have that. And it's cool because it does, you can do translation right in WhatsApp. So if they're speaking Spanish or vice versa, you know, you can make it work. We rented a car, and I think that was a mistake. It was a little bit logistics because Kenzie and them flew into Guayaquil, which is like 8 hours south, and I flew into Quito. Their flight was cheaper, but like they had to drive far, and we weren't using the car a lot of the times. And like you can hire, like I just got in some random dude's car with like 3 other people, and it was like $25 to go 3.5 hours. Or you can take like that same distance, like $5 on the bus. Yeah, you can just like, and then the hostel network, like we stayed in hostels, and the hostels were like so helpful. The people who ran the hostels, like that's how I got hooked up with the driver. She had like the one I got a driver from was like, oh yeah, let me call this person. And they were busy, and like called another person, and it's just like there's a great network to you know, for guides and all kinds of things through the hostels that I found very helpful. No adapters needed for power, same US dollar. Although, you know, you don't want to pay for things with like 20, like having 5s and 10s is helpful because sometimes they don't want to break a 20 for something small. Everybody was super friendly. So that was nice and very helpful. Like I said, the hostels, like if you ask for like, ask random people for like help or, you know, what, if they could help you, they would try to help you. This was surprising is like Ecuador is a coffee producing country, and yet most of the coffee I had was really bad instant coffee. I did search out espresso. It is definitely like a lot more expensive than a cheap cup of coffee. Lots of great juices, like fresh juices, because you know they've got all that you know, tropical fruit down there, and I had so many like different. They have like a board full, like every juice place would have like a huge board full of different juices that I've never even heard of before, and tried a bunch of different things, and it was great. Sadly for me, most things don't open until like 10 a.m. There was like a coffee shop that didn't open until like noon or something. I was like, what in the hell? Like, this is a coffee shop. And it seemed like how are people, yeah, I don't get it. So, you know, I would go out wandering in the morning and everything just looked, you know, they got the metal shutter doors down and like, it's crazy. I felt really good about packing a bunch of snacks because I mean, you know, I went to the supermarket there. You can get stuff to get you by, but I feel like it's a nice like little taste of home when you're on the mountain is and know how that's going to feel and treat you is to have something familiar to supplement. You know, the food in between like snacking and stuff is great, but you know, to have those like snacks that you might be used to, I like that. TP. You definitely want to have that with you, and don't flush it because the plumbing is not great. So, and a lot of places, more places had toilet paper than I thought wouldn't, but definitely not all the time. So this is a little map of. Let's see if I can use the little laser pointer. So Quito is right there. So that's where I would recommend flying into. Guayaquil is like way down here. So this is the Avenue of the Volcanoes. You got Chimborazo is down here, is the Big Daddy. Cotopaxi's here, and then you have some of the sort of acclimatization peaks. The Ilinizas are here. Cayambe is another big one over here. I think Ruminawi is near Cotopaxi. I forget. I'm not sure where some of these others are because I didn't do all of them. So, but basically, you know, you're looking at like to get up to 20,000, you want to, you know, do a few acclimatization peaks to sort of get your body, spend time at altitude, and then descend. I actually chose not to do Diamox on this trip. I did Diamox in Nepal. I didn't like the tingly fingers and the having to drink so much water, which makes you pee. So I was successful with it, but I think Kenzie had like an upper respiratory infection, so she had a hard time with acclimatization, and then Micah also had a hard time. So it's just kind of a roll of the dice. So you want to, this is a cool little caracara, which we saw in a couple of mountains, local bird. You can see a type of caracara in Tucson, like southern Arizona, but So the first acclimatization peak we did was called Pasochoa, 13,000 feet. Kind of like farmland. Like this was like quite an adventure getting up here. Like we drove the wrong way, and it was like a road that I mean, here you would be like, oh, you need 4x4 high clearance, and we're just in this crappy rental car, like scraping the bottom up this, mountain going the wrong way, and like, as you can see, it's like little farms and stuff, and you're just weaving your way up this, like, being like, I don't think we can go up that way, like the car won't make it, and we turn around, and then Kenzie, there was this guy coming on like a dirt bike or motorcycle or whatever, and Kenzie, with her great Spanish, was like able to talk to him and sort of like point us in the right direction. It was quite an adventure, like almost. And so you get to this little sign here, and so there's like, I don't know, it's not quite a shakedown, but like they're charging you $5 per person basically to go. It was like, this is almost at the trailhead. And so I think we went maybe another 2 miles from here, but you had to pay $5 per person to get through this little gate. And it was a little like nobody's there, and we're like, hello, please don't shoot us. We just want to go hiking. So there were, I think, it's kind of a north and a south peak, and you can see the south. I forget which is which, but we're on one of the peaks here, and the other one is behind us. The stats are really not like super crazy. It's not like a super hard hike. It's really all about like the elevation and getting acclimated. There's another one of the caracaras is up there. You can see traversing over. So after each peak, like I think between the peaks, we tried to do a rest day. So we did a rest day in Quito. I went to see the Virgin of the Pasochoa. It is taller than Christ the Redeemer. There's like it's like very touristy. I took 2 buses to get there. That was an adventure. And I did talk to somebody at a hostel who did walk up this hill. Like it was funny when I was Googling it, like something mentioned like, don't do that. And I had already planned to take the buses anyway. And I talked to this guy at a hostel that said he got chased with a machete because he didn't read about that, and he did try to walk up there. So that sounded really sketchy. So I would not recommend. The next acclimatization peak we did was Ruku Pichincha. And all of this is Quito. This is like right in the middle of, or not in the middle of, but like on the edge of Quito. So like you can literally take a bus to get here. And there's actually a tram. We took a tram. I forget, it's like Tella something or other. And it's like, I think it was like $8.50 a person. And you can even, if you really want to, you could like, there's a trail that goes like all the way up here, but we didn't. We just needed to get to elevation. We didn't need to try and kill ourselves before we do anything really hard. So we took the tram, which was pretty. And you can see Ruku Pichincha there. Again, 6.5 miles, 2,430 feet. Did I say 15,000. So you're going over the height of Whitney already. And it has a Paseo de la Muerte, so Pass of Death. Which I really, I read up beforehand about it, and I was like, oh, this is really not going to be that bad. And then like, it was a lot. It was way more than I was expecting. So there's like Kenzie climbing up, and then you have to like climb down this whole thing and then climb up. I was like, geez, like this is. And I was just reading some report about somebody's trip report and said, yeah, some people bring ropes and stuff for this, but I mean. It was pretty solid, and then it was like kind of threatening to rain. I was like, "Oh God, please do not rain." There's another shot of that. So, and and this is almost to the peak, so it's like you're scrambling on top of Mount Whitney. So it's it's definitely taking it out of you. And this is a summit view. I think this is the trail. So there's another Pichincha. I forget what it's called, but like a slightly higher peak. Like I think this is technically a sub peak, but most people go here. Honestly, like that, the route we took up was when we veered off the normal trail to do that Pass of Death. It was most people didn't go on that route. Most people were taking this, more like a hiking route that looks like that. And it was kind of like being at a national park. Like it was definitely like the thing to do. Very busy. And I thought this was really cool. It's like they see Quito in the background. It's kind of unique. Quito was like so hilly. I lived in San Francisco, and I was like, this makes San Francisco look flat. There was a cool, like near the tram, they had some food you could buy. So we got like, viento. It's like wind empanadas. Yeah. empanadas de viento, which were pretty good, and they were only $1 in a touristy area, which is kind of crazy. Rest day, went to the National Museum. I thought this was the coolest thing I saw there. It was pretty small, but it's free, so you know. Next peak we did. This is getting bigger. The Iliniza Norte. So what we're seeing here, this is Norte. This is the north and the south, and we got dropped off like here after. I think we we had a 4x4, the guy with a 4x4 take us up here because we weren't sure if the rental car was going to make it. And there's a refugio you stay at, which is right here. This is where the track, right? You actually go up this way, and then you go from the refugio down. So the refugio is like kind of like the Italian or European refugios, where it's a hut with bunks and a kitchen. And this one was run by the guy that was there is kind of like infamous. His name was El Gato, which is the cat. And yeah, it was like just like it was in all the reviews and things. They're like, "Oh, El Gato will take care of you," and I was kind of disappointed because I thought there was going to be a cat, and it turns out it was just this guy. So that was a little disappointing for me. But yeah, when we came up here, there's like a national park entrance, and it kind of opens at 8, which makes it difficult. Like you can do this in a day, but we got to the national park entrance, and they're like, "Where's your reservation?" And we're like, "Well, here's our reservation." And they're like, "No, you need a reservation for the park." And so Kenzie had a long like discussion in Spanish with the guy about that, and it was like really sad-looking faces. And I was like, "Oh my God, we're gonna find something else to do." And he let us go, and the driver just stood there the whole time. And then afterwards, the driver was like, "Oh, you're lucky you got that guy and not the other guy who works here, because the other guy would have sent you guys away." So. And she pulled she's a wildlife biologist, so she pulled the wildlife biologist card. It was like, I too work in a national park. So maybe that helped us. So this is like at the trailhead, and you can see the North Peak there, and then the South Peak here. And like when you come down the North Peak, so you go up kind of the ridge, and then you come down this like scree, which is one of those usual like up is way slower than, or down is so much faster because you get to just scree ski. Again, the like to the refugio, 2.6 miles, 2,480 feet. And it started fogging and then rain, and so we're like, okay, it's like all wet. So the refugio is at 15,000, so you're already sleeping over Mount Whitney. And then like this happened, like it started snowing, like that rain turned to snow, and I'm like, oh crap, like we didn't bring. We were in approach shoes. We didn't even have micro spikes. We're like, okay. So I'm like talking to the guide, like, how is this going to be? And the guide was like, well, if it stops snowing by 7, it should like melt, and it didn't. And so this is like some of the food we got, some simple food, noodles. I think there was soup. Was also good. And then this was the view of Norte in the morning. So just 4.4 miles to get up and then down. So it's like, I don't know, it's probably like a mile something, and then 1,200 feet. So not too bad to get to, what did I say, 16,000? Yeah. This is Cotopaxi. This is pretty cool. Seeing our future objective. Kenzie got this shot of me. And then there was another Paseo de la Muerta. This one was less. This one, it was funny. I was reading about this, another report about this, where they're like, oh, it's all class 2. Like, I don't know why they take such a big deal. There's even like a bolt somewhere here to like protect it. And I'd read about that, and I was a little bit nervous. But the snow was the crux of this. It's just like, it made everything really slippery, and there was some like up and down we had to do, and then scrambling to the peak. So like scrambling in snow is never the best. This is a really cool shot of the South Peak. And so Kenzie and I were going up the North Peak, while Sean and Micah left at like 3 a.m. to go up the South Peak. And the South Peak is way more technical. Here's us on the summit. So Iliniza Sur, or the South, AI 2 to 3, steep snow. You need, you can see Micah here with his ice tools. And I think it took them like 6 or 7 hours. And they were the only people on that route. There was a guided group that came the day before. It took them like 12 hours. These two guys they're 24, Sean and Micah, and they were just, I mean, my God, so Micah got a little sick on this one, and he went back to the Refugio. So they started at like 3 a.m. We started at, I don't know, 7 or 8. And Sean, still feeling great, summited like 5 minutes after we did on the north side, and then still had to go back to the Refugio. I was like, God, these guys are, and on their rest days, they would want to go to the gym. I'm like, it's like next level. I'm just like, I can't. Another rest day we had was the free city tour. These were like advertised in all the hostels and things. So, suggested donation, $10. You get to see the Pope Mobile, lots of churches, government buildings. We saw some, I think the tour guide really hated us because there was like a parade going through and she's like trying to tell us about whatever. And we're all just like, oh, let's watch the parade. So that was cool. You see lots of churches, government buildings. And then it ended with a chocolate tasting, which was pretty cool. So Ecuador known for cacao. So, they got to advertise, like, meter out their little bit of chocolate while they try to entice you to buy afterwards. So that was kind of a fun experience. Now the big peaks. Cotopaxi, 19,000 feet. So I forget what the trailhead starts at, but, you drive to here, and there's another refugio you stay in, and then the route goes up into this there's like a crater. Beforehand, man, we for the guides, we just I think I spent so many hours on WhatsApp just trying to find guides. It was very anxiety inducing for me. It was probably character building, but like, man, I was so nervous we weren't going to find anybody, and we finally found some random guide, and they showed up late, and like, they took us to this restaurant, and like it looks really good, but like this is our lunch, like, and this is supposed to get me up this 19,000 foot mountain. So like Sean, who's like, he's eating he's vegetarian or vegan, eating like constantly. He brought his own little like Tupperware thing, and he'd go to the grocery store and like get a whole bunch of stuff and just make like a cold soak thing and just constantly like feeding himself. And he saw this and he was like, what? And so he's like complaining to the guide, like, hey, like we need more food, and we all appreciated it because it wasn't a lot of food. I think there was like a soup and something else, but it wasn't a lot of food. So we got them to get us more food, and then at the end, they're like, okay, you got to pay for the extra food now. And it's just like, it was fun. Like I knew that was going to happen, but some other people did not know that was going to happen. And it ended up being like $4 per person, so it was fine. But then like, so we're waiting for the second guide to come. The second guide finally comes, meets us at lunch, and he did not bring another car. He just got dropped off. So they made 4 of us cram into the back of basically like a 4Runner, while the 2 guides are like comfy up front. The guide culture there is like, it's weird. They're just there to drag you up the mountain. Like they're not there to teach you anything. They're chatting with their friends, and they're great. Like I said, one of these guys, he was like, I was like, this is our guide, and you would not think he was a guide off the street, but like he had no problem getting up and down, dragging us up and down. So it's just their day job. We did see this fox, which was super cool on the way to the hut, or the refugio. So getting up to the refugio, it's like pretty chill. Like I think this took us 45 minutes. And I feel like they test you. So we just this is the way people normally go down, but we just went up that. You can see people like doing this zigzag to get up. And so I guess people can take between like 45 minutes, hour and a half. And I think the guides, when we got up in 45 minutes, they're like, okay, you don't have to leave at midnight. You can leave at 1 a.m. So here was very excited to have dinner. That's Micah and Kenzie. This is our start. And so, although like, they're like, oh, we can start at 1 a.m. So it's like, oh, great, we get to sleep in. No, the refugee, everybody else is waking up to leave at midnight. And they're like, for 5 minutes, they were like, people were being respectful and quiet. And then the lights go on. They're playing music now out of like, one of the guides is playing music. I'm like, what in the hell is this? And so like, I'm just laying there with my like sleep mask on and my earplugs in, trying to be like, please. And no. So yeah, you're in these like bunk beds, very tight quarters. Oh yeah, and our guide was sleeping next to us and snoring like he clearly was. Nothing was waking him up. He was a champion sleeper. But yeah, so we were leaving at you can see the headlamps like way up there, and we were leaving at I think 1. Yeah, and the stats, I guess the stats to get to the summit, yeah, 3.6 miles. It's definitely very steep, but it's not like, I look at those stats and I'm like, oh, I do this, that's like nothing. But, at that altitude, it's just a whole different thing. And like you can see, I didn't take a ton of pictures going up, and we're all looking in different directions. We're all freezing. And we got there too early. It was like 30 minutes before sunrise at least. And we wanted to stay, like definitely me and Sean were on the same rope team, and we wanted to stay up there. And the guides were like, no, we have to go down. And so it was a little bit of a bummer. I got to kind of miss the epic sunrise, but and there's a crater. Like this was super cool. Yeah, I wish I could have stayed up here longer to take more photos. I mean, I brought this like super. I bought this like last year. This puffy jacket that's like it's the puffy jacket that the climbing rangers on Rainier use. And it's like I feel like it's like too warm. I mean, it was great to have it up here, but it was almost too warm. And I got these super like these down gloves for this, which was good because I do get cold hands, which I did rock. Highly recommend hand warmers, foot warmers. In terms of gear, the boots, like so, I have these boots which are kind of like I don't know. I guess they're 6,000 meter boots. They have a neoprene booty. They're sort of between a single and a double boot. They rented single boots, like just leather Nepal Evos or Scarpa Mont Blancs, like, and my feet would have like frozen off. Kenzie was in like Trangos, which are like summer mountaineering boots, and she was okay. So I mean, I think it just really it's like runs the gambit of if you run cold or not. I definitely couldn't have done it in lighter boots. This was coming down, just pretty cool. I think we there was like there are crevasses, nothing that was like that we went over. I don't think we went over maybe one snow bridge that was like really you could see, but it didn't really feel sketchy in any way. This is coming down, very excited. Summited Cotopaxi, and there's the peak up there. Summit shadow. I think this is Ruminawi over there. This was a fantastic breakfast we got when it comes. So like in the morning, like midnight or whatever, they have like bread and like tea out and hot water. Because really, what are you going to get down? And I guess that's another tip I've heard is like I think I used on the big mountains like a liter of water or something. Like you're just not eating a lot. I brought goos. Goos were handy because I was like, it's like you definitely lose your appetite at elevation, and I would just like squirt the goo into my mouth, and I was like. I think I chewed one bar, and it's just like, oh, this is agonizing. But this is a great, nice fruit plate. I forget, I think it was maybe plantain bread, yogurt, whatever. Like, definitely had stuff like this in Quito and stuff. Like, you could get great breakfasts with like a big bowl of fruit and like eggs and other stuff. It's pretty good. Our rest day in Quito, we visited the botanical garden, which was actually really good. I'd say of all the like rest day activities, it was definitely maybe the best. Really like tons of flowers. Learned Ecuador. I think they have 25% of the world's orchids in Ecuador. There's like all these different elevations in Ecuador, so and wet areas, so they grow tons and tons of orchids. So if you're into orchids or want to get into orchids, I think it'd be a great place to go. I did not do Cayambe, but Sean and Micah, the killers, they did Cayambe, and they didn't just do Cayambe. So they did plan this ahead of time. This is one thing that was like planned ahead of time. So you can do Cayambe up a standard like glacier route that is similar to Cotopaxi. This is not that. This is like so much harder. Like AI4 M4 Plus is like I saw that and I was like, I'm out. I was like, and they had like a 1-to-1 ratio. Like they each had a guide per person. It took, what's that? Yeah. So 14 and a half hours for these guys that like, are killing it. And I mean, yeah, that just sounded, and I think they did this backed up against, like they didn't get a rest day. They just went and did Cayambe. So like it sounded impressive. And then the big boss, Chimborazo. What's that? Took them 14 and a half hours. Yeah. Yeah. So it's like one of the hardest. Apparently, it's one of the hardest alpine routes in Ecuador, and there are not. I mean, yeah, most people probably don't guide it. It actually, like, if you look online, they're like, oh, only like 20 people have climbed it or something, and I'm sure more than 20 people have climbed it, but it's not the parade of people that are going up Cotopaxi. Speaking of, like, they'll take anybody up Cotopaxi. Like, we met one guy who was like, he was going up Chimborazo, but like the guides down there, you're going to the Galapagos and you decide, hey, I want to go up a big mountain, no experience, no whatever, and they'll take you as far as you can go. So really, they don't care. So you definitely want to know if you prepare ahead of time if you really want to go. Chimborazo, again, I forget what the elevation. This is like the parking lot was basically here. There's a refugio down here that you can stay at, and then this is high camp. High camp is like, it's not a refugio, but they have these like permanent or semi-permanent tents. And so that was one thing that really, like, we booked this like a couple days ahead of time, and when I was talking to all the guides, they're like, they'd be like, oh, we're booked up, whatever. There's no room at the high camp, so you'd have to do it from the low camp. And I mean, not in retrospect, I think I could have done. I think that would have been fine, but you have a better success rate going from high camp. So there's limited spots there, and we just happened to contact a company that had a cancellation, so we were able to squeeze in, which was like super cool. So that is Chimborazo as we were driving by. The distance to Refugio, 1.3 miles, 1,500 feet. I think it took us like a couple hours to get up there. Again, ascending into the clouds. So these are those, high camp, 17,000 feet, these like semi-permanent tents. And I left this guy in just to let you know what, there's the bathrooms and there's also the bathrooms. And this is one of Kenzie's photos. You can see the clouds. I have a friend who didn't make it to the summit, but man, he came back with some epic like sunrise photos from this area. And I'm like, wow, that's great. I did not get that part. This is one of the tents, I think they had 2 kitchen tents. And so you can see some of the food there. Relatively, like, somewhat warm in here. So it's like, a little plantain, a little sausage, rice. It was good. And then I took 0 photos on the way up because I was just like, and Kenzie, like, we woke up. So it was another situation where the guide was like, oh, we'll go at 1 because we were pretty fast. And Kenzie woke up and she was like, wasn't feeling good, and she made the decision not to go. So it was just me and the guide, Jose. And we're like passing people going up, and I'm just like, why is this guy dragging? I finally realized it was like I was letting him do this, and then once I just finally like made him like tug the rope a little bit, he like slowed down, like. I felt like, I was like, it was so hard. I mean, after I had done it, I was like, this is the hardest thing I ever did. I read something like the success rate on this day, somebody threw out a number, it's like 20% or something. And we had great weather. And it was just so hard just to put one foot in front of the other. It was exhausting. And my heart rate was like through the moon the whole time. And I would just like, I need breaks, like a bunch of breaks. And I still ended up doing it way faster than I thought I would. I think the average time is something like 8 hours. I think, again, I think we left at 1:30 because it was like snowing, and the guide was like, let's wait for the snow to stop or whatever. And we did. And I still got up there too early again. I think it took me, I think Cotopaxi was like got up in 4 hours. I think Chimborazo, I got up in 4 hours 20, something like that. And this was my, I feel like this like sums it up, this grainy, horrible photo with my glasses like slightly frozen. I was like, yes, I'm here. Like that last, oh my God, the hill. Here's me and my guide, Jose. And it's just very flat up there. The Cotopaxi summit is like small and cool. And I feel like Cotopaxi is definitely the more beautiful mountain to climb. Chimborazo, it was definitely, the views are good, but it's a flat summit, so it's a little anticlimactic when you get up there. And then also you go up, like it's not shown here, but like I guess where we're coming back. So this is the summit of Chimborazo. You actually like go up a false summit, which has its own name, and then you have to drop 500 feet and then go back up 500 feet. Um, so it's very like you're like I'm here. Oh, I still got to go. And this was like coming down, feeling like as we were moving down, I'm just feeling better and better and better. Like, oh my god, hell, I mean, and it's. I feel like Cotopaxi had definitely had steeper sections because like I just had hiking poles going down. I was just like, I mean, I'm pretty decent in crampons, and the guide was, he was ready to self-arrest if needed, but I was just like, because he was like, oh, just use your hiking poles. And I was like, okay. I was like, you can arrest me, sir. Yeah, above the clouds. The first part was like on dirt, and they wanted the guide. We had talked the night before, and they wanted to put us in crampons from the start. I forget if it was this one or yeah, it was this one, where they're like, we want you to be in crampons straight out of camp. And granted, I was like, we were just like, I don't want to mess up my get my crampons all dull, like walking in this dirt, and then it's going to be like, let's put on crampons when we get to the snow. And people were like roped up and cramponing this. I'm like, come on, please. So thankfully he was like good to let me do my own thing. And there was like a little like scrambling in boots and crampons like up here, but it was really not that bad. Yeah, that was Chimborazo. As I said, Ecuador has a ton of great mountains that I would totally go back for. My friend did Antisana, which is super glaciated and really pretty. I think there is no refugio on Antisana, so you do have to do a tent. Which after being in all these refugios, you're like, what? I can't lower my standards to a tent. I also heard El Altar from some of the guiding people said is really, really pretty, also very technical and hard. I think it's like mixed climbing. Corazon was another acclimatization peak that we almost did. Ruminawi has some cool scrambling. And I don't know much about the other two. And if you're down there, one of the delicacies is kui. I think it's kui because that's what the sound they make. That's what I was told. I went to a very fancy place to have this. Since I was with people, they wanted to eat as cheaply as possible for the whole trip. So when I was by myself, I was like, I am living it up. So, and I figured if I'm gonna be in a fancy restaurant, I'll try this thing that I'm sure. Like we were driving down there, we saw the little spits with the little guinea pigs. Like when I say little, no, they were actually quite large. I didn't realize guinea pigs got that big. But yeah, you can try that. So my tips for if you wanted to do a trip to Ecuador is do a lot of elevation training. Sometimes with the weighted pack. I mean, there's all sorts of guides online to, for training plans and stuff. I just did Lone Mountain and Cheyenne a whole lot. I have done Lone Mountain well over 200 times now. And I feel like the technicality of the things we did, not Cayambe and Iliniza Sur. If you want to get up to these high mountains, being comfortable walking in crampons, using your ice axe, hopefully self-arresting, traveling in a rope team, those are really the skills. Like I said, they'll take anybody, but I think those things are going to make, if you're comfortable, get comfortable somewhere like a Mount St. Helens or an Adams or something in crampons, like you're going to feel great down there, especially looking at other people who don't know what they're doing. You're going to be passing those rope teams, which feels good. And then learning some Spanish. I did have, we'd go off on my own when Kenzie wasn't around and, get food. And I did get a hot cup of milk one time, which was fun. I was like, con cafe with coffee, please. And I guess they put a little bit of coffee in it. I was like, okay, I got to go get a coffee after this. But for the most part, it was like a great experience. And I found it was funny. I've been to Puerto Rico, and in Puerto Rico, I would try to use my terrible Spanish and try to practice it, and they would just speak to you in English. And there in Ecuador, they will totally like try to hold a whole. I'm just like, you have way more faith in me, and my poor Spanish. I'd just be nodding like, mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. No, por favor. But I would. It is caused me. I'd like to learn more Spanish and be more fluent because watching Kenzie have these conversations and sort of have a deeper connection with the people was really great. Some prices let you like give you an idea of how much various things cost. Like breakfast, you can get a great breakfast for $2 to $6. Um, Botanical Garden 350. Like I said, the guides. So we met some folks in Colorado who went with this company, Andy's Climbing, and this was one of those like packages. This was definitely on the cheaper side. I think they said what they had 4 people, and it was $950 per person, which was like, oh man, like that would have been perfect. But they did say that you're down. I forget what town they stayed in, but like it's not in Quito, and that's you kind of get bored. There's nothing to do there on the rest days. Whereas like we kept going back to Quito after our rest days, and like I don't know, Quito wasn't like it's a cool city. There isn't a ton to do, but it's like we did stay in one of these like small towns where there's like 2 restaurants, and that gets kind of boring pretty quick. I definitely recommend staying in hostels. I did stay in one hotel. I think I paid like $30 a night for it. But like the hostel, they were like so friendly, and you can potentially meet other people. I also stayed at one called the Secret Garden, which is like a lot of people really recommend, but it felt like very too hustle and bustle. Um, and yeah, I mean, they had like family dinners and stuff where you could do, which is cool, but I don't know, it felt kind of like commercial in a way. But all the hostels have their hookups for the guides and like tours, and like you can do things so last minute, which is pretty cool. We use this company up here for Chimborazo, which was really good. Then another friend of mine used, this is a more expensive company, Lonely Summits. I think I was like I was talking to my friend and I was like, give me his WhatsApp, like the guide he had. And I was like trying to hire him directly, and he still wanted like $700 for one mountain. I was like, oh yeah, that's too much. I don't know what that gets you more than what we got, but I think this is sort of like, I feel like that was like mid tier, and it like I haven't heard of anybody recently paying less than 300. Like we went down thinking like, oh, there were some reports of paying like $250 for a guide, and I was like, I think those days are, I think the prices have gone up. Other things you can do in Ecuador, Galapagos, of course. I definitely want to go back for that. There's this thing called the Quiloa Crater, which looks really cool. Uh, Banos is like the adventure capital of Ecuador, and they have like cycling and waterfalls and rafting and I think rock climbing, and then a hot spring. And I wish I had done all those things, but I did not. You can't get to everything. And thank you. That was my presentation. Any questions?
I got one. Any tips for sleeping at altitude, like 70,000?
Oh, geez. I brought earplugs, and like I use this like Bluetooth headset that's like, and it's called sleep phones. And so I put earplugs in, and then like sleep phones over that, and like play white noise, and then I had like a sleep mask. I mean, those are just general sleep things. In terms of sleeping at altitude, I didn't sleep well at altitude, so I probably don't have any good tips for you. It's not fun. And like the Iliniza Refugio, like you can do that whole hike without staying at the Refugio, but like we did that intentionally so that we could get time at elevation. And some of the other things we didn't do because we didn't want to like Quito's at like 9,000, and some of the other cities are like lower, so we wanted to try to stay high in elevation and keep that our red blood cells going. Although I think I did read that like I think it stays with you for like a couple weeks. So I don't know. Acclimatization still seems like a not a solved science. So yeah, different people. Like I said, like two of the group had problems, and then Sean and I were like totally fine. I think Sean was like way fine. I was jealous of how fine he was. And they actually, Sean and Micah, so they did Chimborazo a couple days later, and because they couldn't get high camp, they did it from the lower Refugio. And they made it, so that was super cool.
Did you bring your big camera taking those pictures?
I did not. I brought a small. I did bring a camera. It was definitely a smaller camera. Yeah, it was. Yeah, and I'm glad I didn't bring anything heavy because I was so like like I said, on Chimborazo, I didn't take a picture until I got to the summit. Like I was so like, I was just fighting for my life. I was like, this is so hard. Yeah.
So most of the pictures taken by a camera or iPhone?
Oh, that's a good question. I think probably mostly iPhone, 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 iPhone. Yeah, I would say mostly iPhone. In fact, yeah, looking back on it, I'm like, why did I bring a camera? I was like, I did have it. Like, see, you can see it there. I remember like, I remember getting up to the summit, being like, I carried this stupid thing up here, and I didn't take a single picture. Yeah, I think I did take some, but like nothing that like here, like I probably should have used my good camera for like while I'm standing on the summit, but this is just my iPhone. Yeah.
How was the guinea pig?
It was actually delicious. I mean, I'm gonna chalk it up to the fact that like it was cooked by a high-end chef or whatever. Like I think if you just had it by itself,
nice garnish on the side.
yes, it had a little avocado. Yeah, it had a little avocado. Had like little sauces and stuff. That was terrific. I don't know that I would recommend the ones like you drive from like Quito to I think like Machachi or south basically, and there's like you pass stalls and things. One of the things we did stop for stalls, there was a helado, the ice cream had like a fruit, this like multi-layered different fruits all stacked on each other. That was like super. It was like $1, and it was like Kenzie was marveling over like how are all these like shops in business because there's like they're just duplicated all these little stands and they're all selling the same ice cream. Whatever, it was good. I can appreciate Ecuador. Lots of ice cream, lots of chocolate. Definitely like those things. Lots of empanadas.
I'm going to that whole temperatures and
So I actually brought a little thermometer, and on the top of Chimborazo, I think I measured like 14 degrees Fahrenheit, which I think is kind of warm. Like,
They're pretty warm.
yeah. Well, I'm saying like I think that was a little abnormally warm. Like I think it's normally
They're
colder.
pretty warm compared to like a lot
Yeah.
like even the high peaks in Peru are pretty warm with the tropical peaks, which makes them really.
I forget which of the peaks, if it's like Cayambe or Antisana. There's some like fact about it. It's like a 0 degrees at 0 degrees on the equator. Like, but like Chimborazo, like there was no wind, which like I was very like if there had been wind, I would have been like a frozen icicle. I mean, I brought you have to bring clothing for the worst conditions. So I mean, I had goggles ready to go, and I didn't use them, which was a bummer because they were expensive. And like this jacket was like kind of overkill. But yeah, I'd say 14 degrees. That was probably the coldest of the trip that I think we experienced.
Which month did you go?
At the beginning of, I was there on New Year's Eve. I flew into Quito.
Summertime.
Yeah, although it like I mean, my understanding is the temperature is kind of the same. It's very similar. Like this is the time of like this little window. I think up until like the end of January, like December to January is like the good weather. But I mean, it would rain in the afternoon or evening like most days. And I think that's just how it. What did they say? Something like summer in the daytime, winter in the nighttime was like I think I heard somebody say. Because it would be super warm during the day, like in Quito, and then it would just like get cold and rainy at night.
Would you, if you go again, would you go to the same season, same month?
I mean, I think so. I mean, I don't.
Yeah.
That seems to be what people say is like. I mean, people do climb these mountains year round. It's just like the weather may not be as favorable, but it might be.
So January is favorable.
Yeah, like December, January, I think is the like high season. Like when I was talking to guides, like one of the guides was like, I am booked all of January, like like every day. Like one of my fun fact, one of the guy I had, Jose, I forget if it was Cotopaxi or Chimborazo, he had summited it 700 times. Yeah, it was like such a walk in the park for him.
How many days is the total trip for you?
I was there 13 days.
13?
Yeah, I think I think some of the trips like were advertised as like 5 days, 7 days, 13 days, 10 days. We definitely were ramping up the acclimatization. Like with 13 days, I felt like that was a good amount of time to like go to elevation, have a rest day, go to elevation, have a rest day.
Cotopaxi was 2 days, and then this was 3 days.
They're both 2 days, 2 days apiece. Yeah, I think all of all their mountains kind of follow that similar thing. Is like, yeah, super cool. I highly recommend it. It's very cool.
So, feeling the altitude, do you regret not taking Dymo?
I do not, because I didn't get. Although when I say it felt horrible, I meant more like this is so hard, not like I feel like I'm gonna, like I didn't have like a super headache. Like I think the worst I had was like my stomach felt like queasy. You can buy the, what is it, the coca, and these little coca lozenges, and I did take a couple of those. I felt like that did like settle my stomach a little bit. But yeah, like I think Micah took it after he started having some. I'm like, that's not technically how it works, but in fact, he took one of the like HAPE or HASTE medications because he was really like hit hard. And that's the thing is like we had our own crevasse rescue kits and medications and all that because I didn't feel like the guides like we were talking about like one of the guys, like we were having a conversation right in front of the guides on Cotopaxi about like Micah's being like, I don't feel so well, like my headache, this, that. And the guide's like listening to this whole thing and he says nothing. Like it's like, you want to go up? I'll keep taking you up. Like, so, you kind of, I feel like you need to watch out for your, like, I don't know. It could be unfounded, but I felt like I wanted to be there and be prepared and not rely on, think my guide is going to do something for me. The other thing, like the guides that the guys Micah and Sean had on Cayambe were definitely sounded like a much higher caliber of like, they knew their stuff backwards and forwards, and like, they I think their guides were $500 a piece, 1-to-1 guide ratio, which I still think is a great price because like I think I got quoted more for a 1-to-1 on like Chimborazo than that. So. What's next? Yeah, I was talking to like some on this trip. You're like talking to like, oh, what mountains have you done? Like, what should I do next? And Peru sounds like there's some cool mountains in Peru. So that sounds like a cool destination. Yeah, and then I want to do Mont Blanc and the other the Matterhorn. Those are kind of on my list. But yeah, we'll see who gives me a call and like, hey, you want to go on this trip and just hop on. It's like, I love hopping on trips where I don't have to plan anything, but like nothing was planned on this trip. So it was kind of like I hopped on a trip and then it was just like, we will figure it out. So that was like, that was a whole experience. Well, thank you all so much for coming. Yeah. Appreciate it.